Welcome to the Bright Ideas Podcast.
So how are you accelerating? Are you typically, I'm sure you have a playbook or a formula that you're following for this. Maybe I would assume these listings are reasonably well optimized already, because otherwise they wouldn't have got the success that got you interested in buying the company. I mean, are you doing better jobs at PPC, or are you creating some new variations? Or are you going into a new international market? What are some of the things you're doing to cause the brand to grow?
Yeah, a bunch of stuff. And we do have a playbook. The thing that I love about this business is, one, we learn something every day, right? It's fun to and Amazon's changing, right? It's a competitive, it's millions of sellers, Amazon's changing. So we're always innovating on our playbook. Yeah. But the other thing is that we find, my general theory is successful entrepreneurs typically have at least one superpower, right? But there rarely is anybody, myself included, good at everything, right? And so that's why we're building a team of people who are great at all these things, so we can hopefully be best at everything. But so it varies. Like, we find some entrepreneurs who are amazing at merchandising, and so they have great imagery and they have great videos and spend zero on PPC, right? And they've just won through amazing product and amazing merchandising. And then we see the other side, where people don't have that good at photography and don't have that good at copy, but are just blasting PPC and are winning through PPC, right? And it varies. The playbook is pretty consistent, but where we find the value varies a lot by what the entrepreneur was differentially good at. And then they almost always have a couple of blind spots, right? And so, for example, supply chain is often one of those. We find a lot of entrepreneurs air freighting a lot of things, going out of stock with some consistency, which is maybe supply chain / cash, right? Just people don't have unlimited cash if you're growing a business. So it varies. But in general, we find international expansion to be a really consistent lever. We find usually PPC optimization. Sometimes people have done a truly best-in-class job, and there's a little bit less for us to do there. But in general, we find we can be better at that.
What's your favorite software tool? What's your favorite software tool for managing PPC campaigns?
We are currently using 4 different software tools and also building an in-house overlay on them. We found there's a bunch of pretty good ones out there. We haven't found one that's doing it the way that we want to do it quite yet. And so we're building a bunch of our own stuff. The thing is, to do it well, PPC does not exist in a vacuum, right? PPC depends on your competitive landscape. It depends on your organic ranking. It depends on your price versus competitors. And so to get an integrated view on that and to create an algorithm that takes those things into account is something we haven't found. So there's a bunch of people who are good at PPC as PPC only, right? As kind of an ad optimization engine, which we're still leveraging those platforms to do that. Once we've kind of done our math around, is this a price elastic category or is this an aspirational category where we can price up by 30% and use PPC to support that, right? You need to be thoughtful. It's not one size fits all with PPC. It depends a lot on the category, the competitive landscape, your margins, your price point, things like that, your organic ranking. It's really important. So we find that's a viewpoint that we found a lot of success with, but it's hard to execute, right? We are building a software platform because we are managing at this point probably tens of thousands of keywords a day and hundreds of ad campaigns a day, and integrating those, right? Organic rank, ad campaign, price, competitor share gains and loss, and doing all that math every day now and soon to be hourly is pretty unique and is helping us kind of consistently. It is, which is why we're not doing it with humans, right? We're doing it with software.
Yeah.
And that's, a third of our team are software engineers, and we're continuing to build in that way, because that is, I think, where we win. And not to say we win at the expense of other people's winning. I think this is so big, many people will likely win over time. But our secret sauce is that if we create the right technology platform, we can continue to buy hundreds and thousands of brands, and we throw them into this machine that is just really good at what it's doing. And then we have a bunch of mechanics working on making the machine better, not people trying to go line by line through PPC campaigns and trying to figure out if it's a good bid or not.
How many people are on the team now?
32.
So 10 of them are engineers.
Yeah, 9 maybe.
9.
Yeah.
And how many are in M&A deal flow?
3 or 4.
But you also now probably have a pretty decent network of brokers who are not employees, but they're essentially working for you and that they're continuously looking for deals for you.
Correct. Yeah, we use a lot of brokers. We also have a really high Nate, who runs M&A for us. I always tell him he's running a B2B sales team.
Oh,
right. His job. What's that?
I said, I agree completely. A year and a half ago, I interviewed a guy who was buying brands and his deal flow strategy was brilliant. And it was all basically reverse B2B sales.
Yeah, it's exactly right. And so there's a lot of parts to that we could talk about. But the most important part to me is customer service. At the end of every deal, we should get an NPS of 10. NPS is just Net Promoter Score. It's a way of measuring customer satisfaction. And so we get a lot of our deals through referrals. We get sellers telling their friends, call Perch. Those guys are fair. They're fast. They know what they're doing. I'm getting my earnout, right? They tell you they're going to deliver on this earnout. They're delivering on their earnouts. And that is really how we win on the M&A side, because there's a lot of people out there and a lot of people are calling every seller and saying, we want to buy your company. And like I said earlier, sellers don't want to get into an LOI with somebody who might nickel and dime them and who might, back away at the last minute or not have any funds, things like that. And so we find it's really powerful to have that referral network.
Yeah, it's the Warren Buffett buying strategy. Be the very best, most credible, most trusted buyer in the marketplace, and you'll get first kick at the can at most of the good deals. And in some of those cases, as I'm sure has happened for Berkshire Hathaway on many occasions, there is no other buyer. Yeah. The company just comes and says, we want to sell to you. And Warren Buffett's famous for, making handshake deals and doing, multi-$100 million or maybe even $1 billion transactions in a matter of hours, which is cool. Yeah. I'm sure his due diligence team's going in after that and doing their thing, but Warren and the seller come to an agreement in a very, very short period of time.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So let's close out with this. What do you see for the future? Both in terms of opportunities, which I'm assuming is just more, and then challenges.
Yeah, the opportunity is I really believe that we can build a consumer products company that is taking these really impressive products and brands and making them household names. And that's not a 2021 thing, right? It takes a long time and a lot of effort to get your products in all the Walmarts and all the Targets and across e-com channels and D2C, right? It's not an Amazon only play. So I think this is why we don't call ourselves an Amazon aggregator internally, because that is like step 0 of the strategy. Because we think it's just the barriers to entry for new products has come down so much. 5 or 10 years ago, you probably needed $100,000, if not $250,000 to launch a new consumer product because you had to buy a whole container load, right? An MOQ was so high, you had to buy a bunch of it. You probably had to fly yourself to Asia first because Alibaba didn't exist, right? So you fly yourself to Asia, find a factory if you're lucky enough to get a good deal and not get ripped off, and then buy a whole lot of it, come over here, find retail distribution, start, you float the working capital. It's really hard. And today you can launch a product on Amazon, source it through Alibaba and launch it on Amazon for $1,000. And so millions of people are going to keep launching these products. And the beauty of what's happening is that quality wins, reviews win, social coverage wins. People don't care about we like Super Bowl commercials. They're fun to watch. But people buy based on reviews and organic ranking and social because they trust their peers more than they trust a $5 million social or Super Bowl ad. And so we think the trend is that this is going to continue. Micro brands are going to continue to take meaningful share of overall retail. Consumers want it, and they trust these brands. And so our job is to capture and accelerate the best of those brands and make them into global household names. And we're just getting started. It feels like the first pitch of the first inning on what we're building. And then the challenge is it's really hard, right? This is a really hard business to run. And we're leaning heavy into technology. Like I think most other people at our scale would probably have 100 employees. And we have 30, and a third of them are engineers. And so we're leaning deep into the technology because we think, especially within e-commerce, that's a path to, like, if we were hiring a whole lot of employees for every brand, at some point you just run into a wall. You just can't hire enough people to keep doing that forever. And we're going to be able to continue to accelerate and go cross-channel and do that in a really, really scale way. But it's really hard to have the discipline to invest in technology. The easy path is always, let's hire a 22-year-old to go do this thing. It's really hard to go multi-channel, multi-geography. It's really hard managing a physical supply chain at scale, right? This is there's a lot of moving pieces of these businesses, and there's a reason why Procter and Gamble and Unilever are highly acquisitive. They spend between 20 and 40 billion dollars a year on M&A, and the reason they're not doing this is because they know how to run a $500 million business. They don't know how to run $105 million businesses.
Yeah.
And the reason is for example, what I was just talking about, the headcount model, right? You can't, their model is they have brand managers and inventory managers and all these people in every single brand. And obviously they're worth hundreds of billions of dollars and they're being successful in their own way. But the real differentiator that is hard is managing a whole lot of discrete moving pieces on each brand is a massive challenge and complexity just to keep them from not falling apart. And then add on top of that, growing them and taking them to new geographies and taking them to new channels and all of the variations that come with that. So we don't take it for granted. We feel like it's been an amazing ride, but we're also just getting started and there's a lot of hard work ahead of us.